Hi there! In today's video, I'm going to show you how you can do web scraping in Python, even for websites that try to block you from scraping them. So let's get started. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to install a Python virtual environment. Now this is optional, but it is for isolating the dependencies I'm going to install into this project only. And it helps me to keep track of what dependencies need to be installed. So I am going to run Python 3 mvenv venv, where the first venv is the command to create a virtual environment, and the second venv is the name of the virtual environment I'm going to create. So let's run this, and that will in fact create a venv folder here, and we can then enable this virtual environment by saying source venv bin activate. Okay, we are ready to go. So the first thing you have to do for web scraping is you, of course, have to fetch the HTML content of the website you're going to scrape. So let's do it. The easiest way to do that is with the requests Python library. So let's create here a main.py file and let's import requests. And how the requests library works is we can say that the response equals requests.get. And then we can put the URL here that we want to scrape. So let's say you want to scrape some business news. Then you could put here https edition.cnn.com/business. And then to get the HTML from this response, you can say response.text. So let's actually save the response into a file. So we can do with open content.html in write mode as f, we can say f.write response text. And if we save this and we run it with python 3 main.py, then it complains that we don't have the requests module. So let's install that. Pip install requests. And once that is done, we can try again. So let's see if that will work now. It ran and nothing happened, but in fact we got a file here called content.html. And this file contains all the HTML content of that web page. And this looks like a lot of garbage. And that is really the most difficult part of web scraping, to actually parse the content. So if we would like to parse some of the news headlines from here, then we would have to find something like this, some headline elements, and then we could scrape the information from here. And I will get to that, but not all websites are quite as nice as CNN. So for example, if we were to try to scrape indeed.com/jobs, Q equals programmer. So if we wanted to scrape some programming job listings, then let's see how this will go. If we run our main.py now and we go to our content, then we got something, but if we scroll all the way up here, then we actually have a title, blocked indeed.com. So they do not want us to scrape their website. But there are some ways around these kind of issues. One of them is the user agent header, which is something that all the browsers and the requests library send to every website that they try to load. So if we were to load http bin.org/user agent, which is a website that just responds with the user agent they got. So if we now go to content, then this is the user agent that requests sends. And this means that the website that you're trying to read can just check, okay, you're using Python requests, well, we're going to block you. But we can set that header to whatever we want in requests. So we can pass in headers into this requests.get. And we can say here, user agent is something, whatever we want. Now, if we would take this and go to the actual browser and paste it here, then this is my user agent in Chrome. So we could just copy this and we could put that in here and pretend like we are using Chrome. And then we could run this again. And if we now take a look at the content, then now we actually got this user agent. So what if we then go back to the indeed.com and we try to scrape that one? Will we get something? Well, we got a bit further, but now we got a security check. So this trick doesn't always work. But clearly, if I just take this URL and I go to the browser and I just go here, then it will in fact load, and we got all of these developer job listings here. So how come we can't read it from Python? Well, what we can do is we can use a Python library called Playwright, which actually uses a Chrome browser. So it loads the website in Chrome, and then it gets the content of the website that way. And you can bypass some of these blocks with Playwright. So let's try to use it. First we have to install it. So we need to say pip install Playwright. And once it is installed, we also have to say Playwright install, which will install the actual Chromium browser. And actually, it also installs Firefox and a bunch of other dependencies. And once those dependencies are installed, we can start to use it. So it works this way. We can say from playwright.sync API import sync playwright. And for some reason, VS Code is not detecting that I installed this, so I'm going to reload the window, which didn't help because I'm in the wrong environment. Let's go here. So now what we can do is we can say with sync playwright as P, which basically just starts this context manager of Playwright. We need to start a browser here. Let me get rid of this stuff. So we can say browser equals p.chromium.launch. Now, by the way, you can also launch Firefox if you want, but I will use Chromium. And then we need to do page equals browser.new page to create a new page. And then we can do a bunch of stuff with the page. For example, we can do page go to, and let's just go to like google.com. And we can even take screenshots with this. So we can say page.screenshot. And we can say path is screenshot.jpg. And we can even take a full page screenshot. And finally, we have to remember to browser.close. And of course, we can get the page content, which is what we want. So we can say that the content is page content, like this. And we can even save that into a file like before. So we can do with open content.html in write mode as f write content, like this. So let's run it. Python 3 main.py. Okay, it ran. It spit out some information because I wrote the URL wrong. So let's write this correctly, HTTPS, and let's run it again. And it's gonna load for some time because it will actually wait for the page to load. But now, if we go and take a look, we should have a screenshot here. Let's open it. And look at this. We got a screenshot of Google. Also, if we go to content.html, then here is the Google source code. But let's now try that indeed.com website. So it was indeed.com/jobs Q equals programmer. And let's try to run it with this. Does it work? It ran, but let's take a look. We have a screenshot that says request blocked. Well, what are we going to do now? We're still blocked. Well, don't worry quite yet. We have one more trick up our sleeve. What we can do is we can create a new context with browser new context. And here we can pass in a user agent. So let's try the trick again. So let's go back to the user agent here and let's put it here. And then instead of doing browser new page, we use the context new page. And let's see, is it now going to work? Let's run it one more time. And now it is actually loading for a longer time, which is always a good sign. And it ran. So let's take a look. What is in our screenshot? Look at this. We in fact got a screenshot of the whole page. And here we have all of these job listings. So we were able to scrape it. So let's take a look at our content.html. Do we actually have something here? What is the title? Title is Flexible Programmer Jobs, Indeed.com. And if we take a look at the screenshot and let's take a look at one of these job titles, we have a Statistical Programmer 2. So let's try to see. Can we find it, not here, in the content.html, Statistical Programmer 2. We have it here, and we also have it in quite a few places. So yeah, it seems like we were actually able to scrape the website. Let me zoom out a little bit to see. And this, in fact, seems to be the information. Not sure why everything is in white. Probably the lines are too long, so VS Code doesn't want to render them. But we have the information here. Statistical Programmer 2 is the title. And the company is Fred Hutchinson Cancer Center. And the location is Seattle, Washington. So how would we now go about parsing out this information in a nice format that we can use somewhere else? Well, let's do that. I'm going to show you two different techniques you can use to parse the information from the website. The first one is what I would like to call the king of splits method. And the second one is going to be beautiful soup. So let's check out the king of splits method. So I'll create a separate file for this. And in this file, let's open the content.html. So we can do with open content.html as f, we can say content is f.read. Now I'm doing it this way just for demonstration purposes and for testing so that I don't have to run the playwright script every time. So it's going to be faster. But of course, you could just add this code that I'm about to write just after this content equals page content, so you can run it inline here. But what are we going to do in King of Splits? Well, if we would like to scrape all of these job titles from here, and the companies and the locations, we could find in the source code something that separates these. And in this case, for example, we have here the software quality engineer. Then if you take a close look at this source code, you might notice that all of these job listings have this area label full details of, and then it says the title here. So what we could do is we could say that the listings are content.split, and we can pass in here this thing. So what split will do is it will literally split the content into pieces based on this delimiter. So if we would do this, and then we would do for listing in listings, we would print the listing. Basically, we will loop through all of the listings and then print whatever is in there. And I'm going to limit this to like the first 100 characters, so it's not going to be too long. And let's add another print here, so there's going to be some extra new line. So what would happen if we would run Python 3 king of splits? Well, look at this. We already have these segments that start with the title of the job listing. Now, the first one is going to be some garbage because we split by this, and everything before the first one like this is just going to be the top of the code. So what we can do here is we can say that just take the index 1 until the end. So if we then run this again, then now we get only these jobs and nothing else. Okay, well, let's show a little bit more here. More than 100 character. Let's do like 500 characters. What will that look like? Well, that wasn't quite enough, I guess, because we don't still see the location or the company. So let's put even 1500 characters and let's take a look. And now, if you take a close look, you can see that we have the location here and we have the company name here. So how would we then go about parsing these out with the king of splits method? Well, we can get the title by doing listing.split. And what are we going to split with? If we take a look here, the title is in the beginning and it always ends with a quote. So we could just split this thing with a quote and take the first part. And that will be our title. So let's do that. Let's split with a quote and take the 0th element, which is the first one. So if we print here then title, and let's run this again, then now we can see that the title is Software Engineer. And here it is IT Release Manager. Okay, well, how do we get the company name and the location? Well, in this case, luckily they have added this data test ID company name and data test ID text location attributes to these elements. So what we can do is we can split by this one. So let's say that the company name is going to be listing.split. And let's split by this thing, data test ID company name. And we want to take the element number 1, which is the second element. So everything after this text we want to take. So if we would then print here, company name is company name, and let's hide this part and run it again, then it kind of worked, but we got all the code after the company name. So what should we do? Let's go back to printing the listing and not the company name. And if you take a look at the company name, it always ends with this /span. So since now that we split with this and we took the second element, we can take this one and we can split it by this and take the first element. Do you see where I'm going with this? So we can do company name equals, now again, company name, which is already split, and we can split that by /span, and we can take the first element. So now if we would print the company name and run this again, then we actually got company name class CSS something DocuSign. So we're close. But hey, this method is called the king of splits. So you know what we're going to do. We're going to split with this thing, or maybe even these two things. So let's do that. Let's say company name is company name split, and we are going to split with this thing. And we need to take the element number 1 again. So the last or the second element. And now if we finally run this, then look at this. We have exactly the company name here. And for all of these, we have it. So then we can do the same thing with the location. Where is the location? Here we have one location. And this again has the test ID. And this one is actually a div element, not a span. So we have to split by div. So let's do that. Let's just copy this thing and let's call this location. And let's again print location like this. And this is going to now be text location. And this is going to be div. And that should work just the same. Let's run it. And here we have title, company name, and location. And we have the same thing for all of these. And of course, we can now remove the printing of the actual listing. So then it looks nice. Here we have everything. So that is the king of splits method. Now here we have something weird because not all of them ended with /div. So basically I think we could just split with this character because I don't think that character will be in the location. So we can just do this and probably we can do the same thing here. And let's run it again. And it still works. And now we don't have any extra stuff in there. So that is the king of splits method. And personally, I kind of like this method. It's fairly simple, at least for me to wrap my head around this. But it is kind of hacky. So let's take a look at another method of scraping data from a website. And this one is called Beautiful Soup. So let's call this script soup.py. And for this, we have to install a library called Beautiful Soup. So let's do that. Pip install Beautiful Soup 4. I think this is the name for it. And what this library does is it can actually kind of intelligently parse HTML. So what we can do is we can say from BS4 import beautiful soup. And then we can say that the soup is beautiful soup, and we can pass in our content here, which we need to read. So let's read it from the file again. Let's do like this. And now that we have this soup, which by the way is called beautiful soup, I guess because this is the ugly soup, but we can convert it into beautiful soup by doing like this. We can do with open beautiful content.html in write mode as f. We can do f write soup.prettify. So if we run this, let's do it, python 3 soup.py, then we get a warning, which is fine, but we also got beautiful content.html. So if we take a look at this one, and let's find software engineer here, then look at this. This looks a lot more readable. Now we actually have these result contents here, because it adds these new lines and tabs and everything. And we can clearly see that this is one job listing. We have a title here, we have the location here, and we have, sorry, that's the company name, and here we have the location. And we have the salary and everything here. And if we scroll down, then we are going to have another one, which is junior gaming producer. And this is the company, and this is the location. So Beautiful Soup can prettify the HTML, but it can do a lot more. So what we can do with Beautiful Soup is we can actually select these HTML elements with these classes or the element names. So for example, we can see that all of these job listings are inside of this TD element, which is called result content. Then what we can do with Beautiful Soup, if we remove this prettification, we don't have to do that. That was just an example what it can do. We can say that the listings are soup.select, and we can select with .result content to find all of the elements that have the result content class. And then what we can do is we can just say for listing in listings. And now we have the listing object, which is similar to the soup object, so we can again perform selects on this. So for example, if we would like the title of the job, we can take a look at where is it here. Well, in fact, we have an h2 element that has a class job title, and the job title is here. Now, there's a lot of HTML in between, but it doesn't matter because there is a way to get just the text content of the element. So we can say that the title is going to be listing.select, and in this case, we could either select just the h2 or we could just select the job title class. So we can do .job title, and select returns all the results. So we will just take the first one. And on this, we can say get text. So this will be just the text inside of the job title. So let's actually print this. Let's print title, title, and let's run this thing. Python 3 soup.py. And look at this. We got all the titles nicely from Beautiful Soup. Now, this error that you might see here, we can get rid of it by adding this features equals HTML parser to the Beautiful Soup constructor, which basically means just adding a comma here and then features equals HTML parser. So if we now run this again, then we don't get that error anymore. Okay, let's get the other information. We can do it in a similar manner. So we have the data test ID company name and data test ID text location. So we can copy this thing and we can say that the company name is listing.select, and let's put in single quotes now this thing because we have double quotes here. And I believe this needs to be in brackets like this. If you're trying to find all elements that have a specific attribute with a specific value, then you have to put them in these brackets. And again, we can do 0 and we can do get text. And we can do the same thing with the location. And the test ID for the location was text location. So then we can print all of these again. So the company name is going to be company name, and the location is going to be location. And let's add another print here, and let's do it. And here we have it. We have the titles and the company names and the locations. And it works just perfectly. So let's put this together with the Playwright script. So what we can do is we can copy this code and we can go to main, and we also have to do the import here. So from BS4 import beautiful soup. And once we get the content, we can just do this. We can pass the content into beautiful soup, and then we can get the listings, and we don't have to save anything anywhere, and we can just print them directly like this. And we can remove the screenshot, we don't need to do that. And we could even convert this into a function where we pass in the search query. So let's define a function, get job listings with a search query, which does all of this. And then instead of printing them, we could have here jobs as a list, and we might do something like jobs append, and we can add like a title, and company name, and location is going to be location. And then we can return those from this function, return jobs. And we might want to define jobs all the way up here. So now what we can do is something like this. Print get job listings, and we can search whatever jobs we want. We can search for a web developer. And let's now run Python 3 main.py, and this should now find web developer jobs from indeed.com. And here we have them. Now, it would have been good to format this a bit nicer, because it looks like this now. So let's in fact do something like JSON.dumps, and let's say indent is 4, and we can import JSON, and let's do it again. So now we get everything in this nicely formatted JSON. Now obviously don't integrate indeed.com to your application like this. This is just for personal use. Otherwise you'll get sued or banned or worse. But this was basically everything I wanted to cover in today's video. If you have some questions about this, then let me know in the comments, and maybe I will make a follow-up video. What would you like to scrape? Also, make sure to subscribe if you want to see videos like this in the future. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Am I gonna get sued?